The shifting geopolitical and economic dynamics in Latin America, where China has rapidly displaced the United States as the dominant trade partner for most major nations, including Brazil, Chile, Peru, and Argentina. This represents a significant challenge to the U.S.-led regional order, which has been underpinned by the Monroe Doctrine and its Roosevelt corollary, establishing a history of U.S. military intervention and political influence throughout the 20th century to protect its interests, often centered on oil. Venezuela, with the world's largest proven oil reserves, became a critical flashpoint in this power struggle. The rise of Hugo Chávez's anti-American socialist government in 1999 marked a pivotal turn. Chávez, and later Nicolás Maduro, aligned with U.S. rivals like China, Russia, and Iran. The U.S. responded with heavy sanctions, accusing the Venezuelan leadership of drug trafficking, though evidence is questioned, and U.S. allies like Colombia and Mexico are more central to the U.S. drug supply. Despite political hostility, strong economic interdependence persisted. U.S. refineries were specifically designed to process Venezuelan crude, leading the U.S. to quietly issue licenses to companies like Chevron to bypass its own sanctions. Simultaneously, Venezuela deepened its ties with China, which began with a major 2001 trade deal. As the U.S. attempted to isolate Venezuela, China provided over $60 billion in loans for infrastructure, making Venezuela a key entry point for China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, in Latin America. China's influence expanded rapidly across the region, funding ports, railways, and bridges in Panama, and investing heavily in the Lithium Triangle. Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, over 20 Latin American countries joined the BRI, and China signed numerous free trade agreements. Its most significant partnership has been with Brazil, a leading member of the BRICS alliance, which has discussed creating a new international trade currency to challenge the U.S. dollar. The return of Donald Trump to the U.S. presidency in 2025 marked an escalation. His Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, pursued a hawkish strategy to counter China's influence, framed as an America First policy for the hemisphere. The U.S. aggressively targeted Chinese projects, pressuring Panama to exit the BRI and allowing a U.S. company to acquire a key port operator. The U.S. also deployed troops near the Panama Canal, imposed tariffs on Brazil, and offered Argentina a massive loan conditional on its pro-U.S. president remaining in power. The confrontation intensified dramatically with Venezuela. The U.S. Navy increased its presence in the Caribbean, designated drug cartels as terrorist organizations, and placed a bounty on Maduro. While Maduro attempted to appease Trump by offering oil projects to U.S. companies, Rubio pushed for regime change, advocating for the installation of a capitalist opposition leader. In October 2025, the U.S. cut all diplomatic ties with Venezuela, cornering Maduro, who then sought military aid from China and Russia. Facing a potential U.S.-led conflict, the region was put on edge. Let's conclude by questioning the U.S. strategy, noting the risks of a new migration crisis and the potential for lasting repercussions. Meanwhile, China, having invested heavily, appears reluctant for a direct confrontation and may calculate that the U.S. is overreaching, potentially allowing China to secure its long-term interests by letting the U.S. make a strategic mistake. The competition has fundamentally redrawn the lines of economic and political influence in Latin America.